How's everybody doing today? This is Sergeant Kirk here to talk to you about the newest hotfix titled FoxFour. Just to start off with an overview before I get really detailed, hotfix FoxFour includes shield tanking changes both to infantry and vehicles, HAV-AV balance in general. Swarms have been switched over to the Caldari as they should have been and taken away from the Minmatar. In addition to that, swarm lock-on range has been decreased by a small amount. Assault rifles have been brought down to fit in the according DPS to range chart. Assault bonuses to the Gallente and Caldari have changed. We took a shot at making the breech shotgun and burst scrambler pistol better with a clip and ammo buff. Breech shotgun getting 4 instead of 2. Bolt pistol rate of fire has been reduced, but assault SMGs, assault scramblers, and scrambler pistols get a rate of fire buff. We also made a pass at the MagSect SMG. It gets a damage buff and a charge time reduction to 0.01. That is the same as the militia assault rail rifle if you happen to use it. It's near instant. We also made an attempt to fix small blasters, but that may need some work. Locust grenades from the standard to advanced version have been made to be somewhat useful. We also changed around biotic modules as well. Cardiac regulator and kinetic catalyzer have both received PG reductions. Meanwhile, myofibrostimulants have increased in PG. That's all for the overview. Now it's time to get specific. In our attempt to make shield taking viable as the only defense for a Caldari suit, we increased the recharge rate by a dramatic amount. We decreased the delays for Caldari in general. And we have also increased the thresholds for most of the shields, but also for Caldari dramatically and Minmatar. Caldari hovering around 10 to 11 damage to penetrate the threshold. Minmatar hovering around, I believe, about 8 or 9, 8, 9, 7. But still, that's a lot compared to what we were at like 4 or 6 for each of them. These changes, I feel, have made shield tanking incredibly viable. I got on my Caldari alt yesterday and today, and I'm amazed with the results I can get. And if we are on the right track, it's only going to get better from here. Not just for shield tanking, but for everybody in their racially specific ways. But I'll get back to that in a second. Now, as an unpredicted consequence of the shield buffs, we ran into a problem with sniper rifles. Caldari suits, if fitted right, can range anywhere from 60 to 110 HP per second to rep with only a delay of a 1.12 around there. Between shots, a Caldari suit will actually be able to rep most of it away. Now, I'm not exactly sure if this should be allowed yet. On one hand, you have the Caldari shield, and on the other hand, you have the Caldari sniper rifle. They're not really supposed to attack each other. So on one hand, it kind of plays out, but on the other hand, we don't have an anti-shield sniper rifle in this game. So that should not be allowed unless we have, let's say, convert the rodent sniper rifles into a line of Gallente sniper rifles that are anti-shield and have that be the anti-shield rifle. But as is, this is very weird territory and it's going to require further discussion amongst CPM, CCP, and the community to try and figure this out. And on the vehicle side of things, we've taken a small pass at the Caldari HAV. They've received a recharge rate of about 220 now, compared to the old 126. They have a recharge delay of 3 seconds now, opposed to the 4, and their depleted delay is now 6 instead of 10. This was not intended to be a dramatic change, but this is to be a small change that we can act upon later on in another hotfix. What is a dramatic change to HAVs, however, is what we did between the HAV and AV relation. As we all know, tanks and vehicles in general have weak spots. Two of the weak spots on tanks are the backside, called the fuel cell. That'll be the box on the Caldari tank in the back, and it'll be between the two treads on the Gallente Magiker. The old values prior to this hotfix usually hovered around 125, with the forge gun being the only outlier with 191% to the weak spot. Things have dramatically changed in this hotfix The Forge gun now does 250% to weak spots. The plasma cannon, melee, and assault HMGs do 150%. Meanwhile, hybrid rail turrets, small turrets in general, do about 175%. In addition to that, we've got an added bonus of where all explosive handheld weapons do damage to tanks, and they do about 150 damage to the weak spots. Quite a game changer. We'll see how that plays out. While we're talking about AV, let's go ahead and get this swarm thing out of the way. So swarms now have a lock-on range of 150 as opposed to their 175. This was to give some breathing room to the dropships who were constantly knocked down by swarm launchers. Their max rotation has also been reduced to 50 degrees as opposed to their 70 degrees matrix style turning. The explosion momentum is now 250 as opposed to their old value of 500. This was meant to make it easier on dropship pilots. This was not meant to go towards the HAVs. The HAVs received their weak spots, so swarm launchers could find another way to take out tanks instead of just plain missile usage. Honestly, if we were to have it my way and we had the resources, I would just make a high damage missile that is slow speed and a high speed missile that is low damage. That way you could have your missiles that can still go lock on to whatever they want, but it would be preferred for, the high damage one would be for the tanks, of course, and they're slower, and the high speed ones would be for the dropships because they'll actually be able to reach it. That would be my solution. And lastly, as I mentioned before, Minmatar commandos no longer get a bonus to the Caldari swarm launcher, and that bonus has been moved to the Caldari commando, which will now get a bonus to their own weaponry like they were supposed to. Last up for the explosive talk, we made a change to grenades. Locust grenade variants will all do a 600 splash damage with a radius going from 480, 480, 600, 720 from militia to proto as far as the radius goes. Fuse grenades have also been changed. Standard fuse grenades now do 240, while the prototype does 360 in radius. And did I say radius? And both of them also now do 600 splash damage. Their new PG and CPU accordingly is 4 PG, 18 CPU standard, and 12 PG and 72 CPU for prototype. Moving on to biotic modules. We've made a nice change to them. Kinetic catalyzers require about 1 or 2 less PG to equip. Cardiac regulators now actually give a flat out stamina bonus to max stamina and the recovery rate. So standard now gives 1.5 to both, advanced now gives 1.8 to both, and prototype now gives 2.4 to both, making them an incredibly useful module. Myofibrostimulants, however, have received a small tune down. Actually, their PG costs went up, and their damage has went up for all of them except the prototype that has been brought down by 0.1 and is now at 1.5 as opposed to 1.6. On the topic of melee damages for the suit have been changed. Light frames, including the Scout and Basic, now do 100 damage as opposed to the old 80 damage. Medium frames have gotten a bonus. Both the Basic and Logistics do 120, and the Assault does 140 damage. This is opposed to the 110 bonus that all of them got. The Heavy set, the Basic now does 170. The Commando now does 270. And the Sentinel now does 200, as opposed to the old 150 for all of them, except the Commando, which was at 240. Getting into another topic, we made a slight change to small blasters. The old splash radius used to be 0.05 meters, I believe, which is now 0.2 splash radius. Doesn't really mean much, to be honest. I'm going to show you a video of what the effect is. It's really not too much. There's a slight increase, and that's about it. But as far as the small blaster performance goes, most of it has to do with the inverse recoil mechanic that is killing the weapon. We either get rid of the recoil and keep the heat, or get rid of the heat and keep the recoil, or a little bit of both. As is, what we have now is not the recipe for a good anti-infantry weapon meant for a mobile platform. Now in the clip I'm showing you, I'm going up against militia and standard suits with a prototype blaster cannon. Now, some of you may not see the problem here, but if I were actually moving, there's no way I would be able to hit these guys. As well as if these guys were actually skilled, I would be dead a long time from now. The only reason why I'm actually getting the jump on these guys is because I'm spawn camping on a CRU and I have plenty of time to blap these guys before they realize what's going on. The problem with the small blaster is that, one, just to hit people, you have to be standing completely still. And two, just for you to do some great damage, you have to heat your weapon halfway. And by then, you're either dead or you're about to overheat your weapon. Like you're seeing now, the only way it can really do this well is against standard and militia people that have no idea what they're doing. I don't even want to show you the other LAV footage I tried to get. It's kind of disappointing. And now on to the rifle changes. As you guys know, both the Caldari and the Gallente have received bonus additions to their already lackluster bonuses, making them better. The Gallente have received a 3% rate of fire buff to the Gallente line of assault rifles, and the Caldari have received a reduction in kick and recoil for their assault rifles. This finally makes the Gallente and Caldari bonus worth something instead of being lackluster for so long compared to the other two. In addition to the rifle bonus changes, we have assault rifle changes in general. The assault line of assault rifles in this game have received a nerf to fit within the DPS to damage curve. The assault rail rifle, for example, now has a optimal range of 85 instead of its old 97 meter range. The assault scramble rifle has received a nerf in its range as well. It is now at 80 meters for optimal range instead of its old 88, and it has a heat buildup of 23 per second instead of the old 21. The assault combat rifle has also received a change. Its range is now 75 at optimal instead of the old 79. Lastly, the scrambler has received a tune down. Its heat cost has went up to 16 instead of the old 12. It has more recoil, and you have a slight charge movement penalty as you're charging your weapon. You now move at 80% of what you would normally move at, as opposed to 100% movement. That is all for the Hotfix FoxFour, and I'd like to give you guys a little insight on what I'm thinking about for the future. Our goal at CPM is to break down as many omnipotent suits as possible. Some of the CPM's goal is to increase time to kill in a racially perspective way, as in Gallente get more armor repair rate, and Amar get more either HP or resistance, or Caldari get better shield extender efficacy, and then Mimitar get duct tape or something. We would like to increase time to kill in a racially specific way. Come next hotfix, this may be the case. This has been CPM Colonel Sergeant Kirk, and thank you for listening.